everybody, and welcome to UNET Plus weekly show, You Talking to Me. Today we are here in Strasbourg for the first plenary session of the year, and we're going to talk about the European climate and energy target for 2030. And for this issue, I've got the pleasure to receive Mr. Claude Turmes. Hello and welcome to you. You are the spokesperson for the climate and energy for the Greens group in the European Parliament. So next week, the European Commission is going to present a new package on the climate and energy target for 2030. And the European Parliament wants to see more ambitious targets and also 3 binding targets. So 3 binding targets on the reduction of greenhouse gas emission by 40%. So the current target is 20%. For 2020. The second target is to reach 30% of renewable energies on the energy mix, and the third one is on energy efficiency with a target of 40% of energy saved. So you, Claude Turmes, you want more cutting on emission, and you ask for 60%. Why?
No, I think the most important issue which is on the table is energy policy is a long-term investment. And if we want companies, citizens, but also banks, other financial institutions to invest into renewable energy, to invest into energy efficient, to make the European economy basically more competitive, but also to help citizens against the very high gas and oil prices, we need investment security. And our main battle with Commission next week is that we want to have 3 binding targets so that for the investors it is clear where Europe goes.
So because we have to precise that initially the binding target was only on greenhouse gas emissions. So do you think 1 binding target is not enough?
No, because the greenhouse gas target alone does not give enough basically visibility into what to invest. And renewable energy, so solar energy, wind energy, both onshore and offshore, are really the future technologies which should see the biggest investment. In order to make that clearer for citizens, for policymakers all over Europe, for investors, we want to have a binding, and we need a binding renewable target for 2030, which level should be 30–35%, depending also on how ambitious we will be on energy efficiency.
So 30–35%?
Yeah, 30–35% for renewables. On energy efficiency, I think we have to understand, we are living on one planet. On this planet we have 7 billion people today. We will be 9 billion people in 2050. So not driving the economy and all investments in buildings and so on into being more efficient is like ignoring the fact that with more citizens on the planet, the pressure on oil, on gas, but also on environment will grow. So we need to be more efficient from today on, and therefore we need also a binding target so that governments are basically forced to help better citizens, for example, to invest into the renovation of their existing buildings, which today are often not efficient enough.
But this binding target on renewable energy, it's going to be hard, to convince all the member states, like as the UK, no, it's really against it, because, arguing that this a single target could be cheaper, and arguing that for the industry this is not good to make a binding target on renewable energy. So how do you think we can convince them?
Nobody has been able to explain to me why there would be it would be bad for industry if we would have a renewable energy target. Especially when we look to UK. If we get a binding renewable target, then we will get investment security into, above all, offshore wind. There is not a single area in investment where you could create more jobs in UK elsewhere than in the offshore wind. Because offshore wind is a heavy industry, you need enormous towers, you need enormous blades, so you need people to bring that out to the sea, you need people to maintain that. So a binding renewable target will create more jobs in Europe than if we don't go for it.
How many?
I think we have today already in Europe something like 700,000–800,000 jobs in renewables. Europe is the world leader in wind. We are still very good in the machinery of solar. So going and continuing the good policy in Europe, which we have on renewable energy, will also enable our companies who are active in this field to beat in a certain sense, or to be at least at the same level of competition like some Chinese or Taiwan or South Korean companies who also embrace now renewable energies.
But I mean the European industry, so they're also against, and they argue that public subsidies supporting renewable energy makes the energy costs higher and higher. So what do you think? Do you think this is true?
Of course, we support renewable energy today. Why are we supporting renewable energy? Because coal and nuclear don't pay a fair price. We have the latest nuclear accident in Fukushima will cost the Japanese taxpayer more than 100 billion, and we have now the first fish which is caught in the Californian Sea with radioactivity. So nuclear has a huge cost for society. And every coal power plant is polluting the skies and the climate, is changing climate. So, but they are not paying for the cost, so it's only fair to support renewables as long as the polluting and risky technologies don't pay a fair price. And when it comes to the big energy-intensive industry in Europe, we can clearly show that, for example, the German energy-intensive industry has today lower electricity prices than back in 2009 when we decided on the climate and energy package with the 3 targets for 2020. So there is no reason whatsoever not to continue with the successful policy, which is basically a tripod or a hat trick, a binding target for greenhouse gases, a binding target for renewables, a binding target for energy efficiency, to drive Europe into the right energy transition.
And do you think there is another solution for a better energy mix? Because today...
What would it be? Would it be a mix of nuclear and shale gas? So let's be serious. What is shale gas? Shale gas is taking hundreds of tons of chemicals, injecting them somewhere in the earth, and just hoping that will not pollute the drinking water the first 5 years. But come on, it will pollute the drinking water at a certain moment. So shale gas is definitely not an alternative, and there is very little resources in Europe
Poland,
anyway.
yes. Poland.
Yeah, there is some potential in Poland, but on the other hand, everybody who understands Poland will understand that Poland doesn't have a lot of rain. So if you go for shale gas, then the scarce water resources in Poland will not be able to serve anymore the local farmers. So nobody should be surprised that local farmers in Poland are really scared about the idea of the Polish government and some Exxons and some big multinationals in the oil and gas to drill for gas with fracking technology. This will destroy the livelihood of farmers. And nuclear is not only risky, as Fukushima shows, but nuclear is today more expensive than wind onshore, and it's more expensive than large PV. So there is no economic rationale anymore for nuclear, because nuclear reactors are every day more expensive. The latest figures on the Finnish new nuclear reactor is that estimated costs of 3 billion 5 years ago are now turning to be 8.5 billion, maybe 9 billion. And with that, it's more expensive to invest in new nuclear than in the technologies of the future into solar and wind.
So at the end, I mean, putting some binding targets, at the end, we can see that we don't have, I mean, a European common energy policy. And so the European countries can even choose in the package what energy they want to choose. So at the end, what is the point to make all this, I mean, targets, all these proposals, if the country can?
You are sticking to a very central point. without binding targets for renewables and energy efficiency and greenhouse gas, Poland will go in a completely different direction than UK, and Germany will go in a completely different direction than France. And then basically we blow up one of the most successful policies of the last 20 years, which was building up an European market for energy. So we need to continue with giving countries basically a target, or they need to know where to go. Otherwise, national energy policies will drive completely Europe completely one against the other, and we will not be able, for example, we will not know how many investments we will have, for example, in offshore wind, because if this has to happen in the northeast, it has to be done in common. So the targets are also important to continue to make the national energy policies of the different member states converge into something which makes sense.
But at the end, I mean, Europe has already, I mean, lost its leadership on climate change. We cannot say that Europe is really leadership on climate change.
On climate change, I think the European citizens are still very much committed to climate change. We see today some nasty and dirty lobbying from the coal industry, from the oil industry, from the gas industry. So this is vested interests who want to protect their old dirty business, and I'm still hopeful that citizens will push policymakers into the right policy choices.
Thank you, Mr. Turmes. So we should stop here now because the time is running. So thank you to all of you to follow us on UNET Plus, and see you next week.